Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. It's that time of week again. Week 17 is coming up, and we have the power rankings. We're only have two more of these left in the season. Last one's going to be next week. Playoff race is getting pretty intense, and I hope everybody had an awesome Christmas break. We had lots of football to watch, and some of the games were absolutely outrageous. We're going to go over all 32 teams, kind of how they're doing, where they're sitting in the power rankings, what their playoff future, maybe bottom row, not going to be a part of it. But before we do, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. We just passed over 800 subs, and I am very thankful for you guys. You guys are the reason I keep doing this. Lots more people joining the community, and if you want to keep discussing it, we also have a Discord, couple members in there. We're talking all the time about sports. You're welcome to join that. Otherwise, guys, we're going to jump right into it. 32 teams, and we still got the same team at the very bottom. The Carolina Panthers, they tried to play absolute spoiler of the Green Bay Packers this past week. They brought it super close. 33-30 was the final score, but they couldn't pull it out. The offense got to be a little bit excited with how they're doing, but of course, Green Bay, their defense has not been super consistent this season, and it's probably been what's holding them back. But Carolina continues to be the bottom team in the standings overall, and most days of not, you can expect them to lose. Being in the weakest division as well, that does kind of hurt them. Number 32. They're going to be playing Jacksonville this week, and that team is looking to bounce back after pretty much struggling, so I do expect them to continue to lose. I would be surprised if Carolina isn't the last pick this season. Next up, we got a new second from the bottom. We got the Washington Commanders, and guys, they tried super hard to make a heroic comeback with Jacoby Brissett coming in there, taking over for Howell. They were down, what was it? Felt like 27-0. I know it wasn't that bad, but they were down atrociously against the New York Jets this past week. And I think halftime Breece Hall was just absolutely destroying them. I think it was at least 20 points, but guys, they managed to bring this one back, and they even had a lead with 9 seconds left in that fourth quarter, but somehow the Jets, they pull it out and they win that one by a couple of points, 30-28. Washington has their work cut out for them going up against San Francisco this upcoming week. Probably going to be a definite loss. San Francisco probably not too happy with how things went. We'll get to that in a second. Number 30. Dropping a couple of spots. We have Arizona Cardinals. We had a lot of excitement when Kyler Murray first came back. We thought maybe this team would be a little bit better than we had hoped, but it's starting to turn out that he's not going to make the difference for this team. They get beat by the Chicago Bears, and this game wasn't really close the whole way. 27-16 was the final, but I think for the most part, the Bears had a double-digit lead for the entire portion of this game. Arizona was never really in it other than that first quarter, of course. They're coming up. They're playing Philly this upcoming week. A team that they used to battle hard a couple of years ago, maybe 5-6 years ago, always battling in the NFC, but now they're teams in two different directions. Arizona, it's going to be interesting what they do in the offseason, what they're going to do in the quarterback situation. I'm sure it's going to depend a lot on where they draft. Number 29, moving up a few spots. And guys, this is a team, they're battling. They're never giving up, and I guess you could assume that with a Bill Belichick team. I think, what is that? Is that 2 wins in a row for the New England Patriots? Very well could be, but Zappe continues to be the quarterback of this team. I don't know. He's probably not going to be the future. We all know that. But the defense of the New England Patriots came up big, and they managed to upset Denver. And that was a Christmas Eve special, 26-23. They win in overtime after blowing a massive lead. I honestly shut this game off because I thought New England was going to walk it through fourth quarter. Denver gets 2 touchdowns with 2-point conversions, and they tied up some in overtime. New England gets it out. And guys, they're having Buffalo this week. They beat them earlier this season. Buffalo is playing for their life, whereas New England isn't really playing for much. So I don't expect too much to happen this. But I wanted to give New England credit this week because they've been putting in the work. They've been giving team the gears. Playoff teams, playoffs are going out the window with Denver, for example, this week. And guys, they've got Staley fired the week before. So a lot of credit to New England. They're not a great team, but they're getting a lot of fight. And I got to give credit. Their defense has come up big. Number 28, think in the exact same spot, mainly because the teams ahead of them are better and the teams below them, I think, are worse. It's hard to say. Danny DeVito gets benched at halftime, and we see Tyrod Taylor come in against Philadelphia on Christmas Day and somehow make a game of it. This one completely destroyed my spread pools because I had the Eagles 11 points, but they managed to cover. Eagles looked a little rough in the second half, but the Giants, I don't think they ever really were going to win this game, but they definitely made a run of it for sure. They have the LA Rams this week, another team that's fighting for their life and another team that isn't, so I think we know how that one's going to go. Number 27, welcome to the bottom row. We have the LA Chargers. They tried on Christmas Eve to give the Buffalo Bills a run for their money. They got a new coach. They had a little bit of hype. They had Stick at quarterback, but we probably knew that wasn't going to happen. They at least covered the spread. There was something to build on for this team. Do I really expect them to be in this bottom row come next season? No, but I don't know where they're going to sit. Does Herbert really make a difference for this team right now? I don't think so. Like, Stick had his moments. Of course, Herbert's going to be better than this guy. But overall, as a team in a division that seems to be everyone better, they're in a tough spot. And it's going to be rebuild situation for LA Chargers. I don't know what they're going to do. Next up, number 26. We got the Jets. Thought about moving them up. Thought about moving them down. But they're just going to stay right in this exact spot. And the quarterback situation, of course, it's and all that doesn't help the situation. The defense played awesome. The first half of this game against Washington, we got super excited. I started moving them up. And then the second half happened, and I dragged them right back down because it's just typical Jets almost blowing a game that they definitely should have won. But, guys, I don't know. What else am I going to do with them? They're playing Cleveland on Thursday. It's another one of those situations. One of these teams playing a team that is battling for it all. So I don't expect much to happen there. Next up, we have the Tennessee Titans. Just tried to play spoiler this past week against Seattle. Just eking out a small loss. I think it was 20-17. Titans now another chance to play spoiler, but this time it's in their own division. It's going to be against the Houston Texans, a team that I had predicted making the playoffs, and then we did that last prediction video, and I didn't predict them making the playoffs, and now Tennessee has that chance to really play upset Houston, a team that has stumbled, I guess, the past couple of weeks. However, we do know C.J. Stroud has been injured. I expect him to be back this week, so that's going to make a huge difference. Big matchup, division matchup. This could be a rivalry in the making, depending on how this game goes. Number 24, this team has moved up a few spots, and we have to. Like, they've been pretty consistent in their games. They upset some top teams with Detroit a couple of weeks ago. They continue to roll this week with Arizona, which got to be a little bit excited. They're showing that technically they're still in the playoff race. They could somehow get in, I think. At least they were talking about it over the weekend, so I expect with a win that they're still, in theory, not mathematically eliminated. However, they probably need a miracle. The miracle will start this week, of course. They're playing Atlanta, another team right there in the thick of things with basically a 500 record. They have to win that one. And honestly, I think it's a team they match up really well against, so I'm going to have my TV set to that game for sure. Number 23, we have the New Orleans Saints, a little bit ahead of the Bears because they did beat the Bears earlier in the season. Should they meet now? I don't know if it's going to be the same result, but I do think New Orleans, even though they lost to the Rams this past week, they are slightly better than the Bears. New Orleans is in do or die situation now. They're playing Tampa Bay this upcoming week. They lose, they're done, and Tampa Bay will very likely clinch the division off of that. I don't know if it's for certain, but I'm pretty sure it is. But New Orleans, do or die situation, nearing the bottom of the board. I just don't know. This past week against the Rams, it's a playoff atmosphere kind of game. They just did not rise up whatsoever. Number 22, we have the Las Vegas Raiders, and we all saw it on Christmas morning. Morning here in the Pacific Coast, of course. Raiders upset the Kansas City Chiefs. Ever since they're firing, ever since they benched Garoppolo, they have been consistently pretty good, and arguably you could maybe move them a little bit up further on the board. I just think the teams ahead of them have shown more consistency or more in the thick of a playoff race. I think technically the Raiders with the win have a shot at this division, believe it or not. crazy to think about, but I just don't know if they have the pieces. Mason Crosby continues to be potentially the defensive player of the year. Keep your eye out for that. Number 21, Denver Broncos. I think over the past 2 weeks, the Broncos have shown that I had them completely wrong basically all season. Had them down here at the beginning of the season. Then they went on their massive win streak. I was like, oh my, I must have had them wrong the whole way. Moved them all the way up. I think I got them as high as 7th. And then they've just crapped the bed since. The loss to New England destroys, in my opinion, any shot that they had of playoffs, any shot they had of being consistently and getting it in. Seems like Russell Wilson is going to be benched this upcoming week, which I did not see coming. That's for sure. We're going to see a whole different style of Denver going forward. Will he just be being benched because it's the end of the season? They don't want him to get injured and he's supposed to be the guy for Denver? Or are we seeing a new page being turned and this is the end of Russell Wilson? We see it all the time in sports. Guys getting paid a crap ton and then being benched and that's it. We'll see if that's the case here. It'll be fun. Number 20, we got the Minnesota Vikings. They had it all on the line this past week with Mullins at quarterback. They playing the Detroit Lions in a game that was pretty much must win, but not absolutely must win. They kept it close. They had a chance to drive down at the end and win the game, and Mullins throws an interception. Detroit gets their first ever division win in 30 years, thanks to the Vikings. They do have a tough schedule to go. You got Green Bay this upcoming week, and that's going to be do or die absolute for both those teams. Playoff style game. It's the Sunday nighter. And then, of course, they end the season with Detroit. Again, Detroit might be resting their starters, so they will have grace there. But Minnesota has to win this week. And as you can see, I haven't put Green Bay up, so you can kind of see where I'm leaning in that game. Number 19, we have the Cincinnati Bengals. And the Bengals, I think Browning and all that experiment is that fun is pretty much coming to an end with the Steelers winning 34-11. The defense just shutting down the Bengals. And while the Bengals had a shot, I don't think the North really constitutes a shot anymore for the Bengals. I would say they're pretty much eliminated. They're playing Kansas City this week. Going to be one of those situations where had Burrow been in there, had they been in the playoff race, this would have been a top game. Probably would have pivoted till the Sunday nighter, but not going to be the case this week. And the Bengals probably expected to lose. Next up, we have the Green Bay Packers, number 18. Just touched on them with Minnesota. They somehow sneak out a win against Carolina. Had they lost that, it would have been riot time in Green Bay. They still need a miracle to have any shot at the playoffs. I do think they are better than the teams below them, of course. Why else would I have them at number 18? But Green Bay playing a big, important game here against the Minnesota Vikings. And if they win, they're going to have a little bit of a chance to be 9-8, which, as you saw in our prediction video, is enough to get into the playoffs. I don't know if they hold the tiebreakers necessary to get there because I'm pretty sure they lost to Seattle along the way and the Rams, but we will see. Number 18 is pretty interesting. Number 17, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers, and guys, they managed to put a stop to the bleeding and got me a little bit of faith here because we all know Mike Tomlin's trying to keep his consistency going and show that he can keep the record going of being above 500. Do believe they have to win the next two, maybe just one, to be 9-8 on the season. I can't quite remember their record, but big upset for, not even an upset. They beat the Bengals, and then this week is what's going to be important. They are playing the Seattle Seahawks. This is a playoff style of game. Both these teams are on the border, trying to get those last playoff spots. Both of them are very capable. I think they match up very well. We got a strong defense in the Steelers against what can be a strong defense in Seattle, and both offenses kind of consistent, but put up points. Don't put up a lot of points, but can. Going to be a fun game. I'm excited to see this one for sure. Number 16, we got the Indianapolis Colts, and we saw a little bit of an unraveling this past week when they played Atlanta. Wasn't a very good performance for Minshew whatsoever. They lose 29-10, and we all know that Atlanta has somewhat of a solid defense, so it does concern me when Indy starts playing these games. Luckily for Indy, all the AFC South teams lost, keeping pace in the playoff race. Indy does have Las Vegas this upcoming week. Team that's super hot, been playing super well. I want to see if Vegas can win this game. We're going to see them move up this board because these teams ahead of Vegas right now aren't like way ahead. I think it's relatively close when we're talking about the teams right now. So Indy just holding on by a thread into that number 16 spot. Number 15 kind of put a stop to the bleeding. Benching Ritter, Heineke goes in, dominant performance like I just talked about against the Indianapolis Colts. We do have Atlanta playing Chicago. Talked about it already. Big playoff kind of atmosphere. It's do or die for Atlanta. A lot of these teams have to go 2-0 down the stretch to have any shot at the playoffs. And some of them are going to be capable. We're going to see one of these teams here sneak into the playoffs. Who's it going to be? Put it in the comments below. Number 14, coming off a big road win against the Tennessee Titans. We have the Seattle Seahawks. They're going to keep it going. They got a big matchup again this week. Steelers just talked about it, but the Seahawks have what it takes to be in a playoff spot. And the NFC, I think, has a little bit more going for them, a little bit more room for error as opposed to the AFC, which the Steelers have. Do expect the Seahawks, based on the power rankings, to win that game. So, guys, keep your eye on it. It's going to be a top-tier matchup. Number 13, I don't even know if I should have them this high, but I still have a little bit of confidence. It's been a lot of struggle, a lot of question marks, of course, with injuries and Lawrence and all that fun stuff. Zay Jones missing the game, of course. They just get absolutely destroyed by Tampa Bay. It was 30-12. The offense just hasn't seemed to get it. It's been ugly ever since it seems Cincinnati and that Monday nighter a few weeks ago. It's been ugly for Jacksonville. The one thing working in their favor, talked about it already, the AFC South, they continue to lose as well. So they are on top of the division, but they got to basically win out. Whoever goes 2-0 down the stretch here in the AFC South is going to win the division. And I think whoever wins the division is going to be the only team in this division to get in. Right now, of course, you don't see it being Jacksonville. Jacksonville does have Carolina this week, so it should be a win. Number 12, Houston. CJ Stroud was out this past week. They're having Tennessee come. This is going to be a situation where I would expect both these two teams to win. I do think they play each other at the very end because I don't think they've had their second game yet, but I could be wrong, guys. I talked about it in my other video. But if it comes down to it and these two teams do play each other, I do give the edge a little bit to Houston. Getting beat up 36-22 by Cleveland. Not going to hold too much against them. Cleveland has been a top performing team, has played super well all season. It's been one of those teams that's gone very much under the radar until this week on the power rankings as well. But yeah, number 11. Moving up almost a whole entire row in general, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think they've cemented themselves as a clear favorite to win the NFC South. And they had that dominant win over the Jacksonville Jaguars. Super excited. Baker Mayfield continues to be one of the best analytically statistical quarterbacks in the NFL, let alone he's just been solid. And the Tampa Bay defense is solid. They have the weapons on offense. White has been a great running back. I think Tampa Bay, if they make the playoffs, and I expect them to at this point, could be a quiet threat in the playoffs. So keep your eyes out for this. Another team that I've been talking about being a little bit of a threat for a little while now is the LA Rams. They continue to roll. They had a massive win against the New Orleans Saints, which really put a big amplify into their playoff chances. And I think they're the best team left so far that we've talked about. That's basically how those power rankings work, right? LA Rams, they do have the Giants this week. They should be able to pick up a win here. And that should all but secure it for them in the playoff situation. Number 9, dropping a few spots. We have the Dallas Cowboys. That's now back-to-back losses against the AFC East. They lose to the Dolphins 22-20. Game was back and forth, right down to the stretch. Dolphins get a field goal right at the end. Mind you, Dallas couldn't really get any offensive going early in this game. They trailed the majority of the game. They did take a late game lead, and the Dolphins took it away from them. So far, it was a battle between the two teams that can't seem to beat a top team. Dallas continues to have that story, which puts them into number 9 and does the story of Dallas. Great season, but they're not getting it done. Next up, we got the Buffalo Bills just coming off a really tight win, but they did win against the LA Chargers. I was thinking about putting them up a little bit farther, but we got to remember they've struggled. Josh Allen had a little bit of struggles here again, and I'm going to hold it a little bit against them. They should be on their trajectory to make the playoffs. They're going to play New England this upcoming week, and then they have the Dolphins the following week. Technically, the division is still up for grabs. Dolphins play Baltimore. If Baltimore wins, it could come down to that last game of the season for the division. I want to see the Bills keep rolling. I do think they are a top 5 team. I just not ready to move them all the way up. I do think some of these other teams have been a little bit more consistent. When it comes to number 7, consistency is probably not a good way to describe this team whatsoever. Losing on Christmas Day to Las Vegas, we now have 2 division losses to Denver and Vegas along the way here. A lot of concern with the Chiefs. I just couldn't move them lower. Arguably, maybe you could, but I couldn't. I do think they are a little bit solid. They should get things right going up against Cincinnati. A lot of question marks, especially offensively. Can this team do it? This is really the first time in a long time that it's the defense that really carries this team. Number 6, I drop them on the ground, but they are definitely not bottom feeders. We got the Cleveland Browns. Highest they've been all season, and it's time to give them a little bit of credit. 36-22. They picked up their 10th win of the season, and it's against a team that is maybe playoff bound. Flacco coming in there, getting it done. Got to be a little bit excited with how this team is actually performing so far. Browns, number 6. Not too much else to say. They're playing the Jets. Should keep on rolling. Number 5. Highest they've been this season. With a big win over Dallas, I got to be a little bit more excited about how things are going. The offense, Tyreek continues to roll. Will he hit 2K? I don't know, but maybe he might do it. The Dolphins are on their way to potentially winning this division for the first time, what feels like a long time for myself. Big, massive, important game for them this week against Baltimore. Should they win it, they'll clinch the division. Right now, Baltimore seems to be the best team in the NFL, so it's going to be an awesome matchup. Not easy schedule to end for the Dolphins. Got to keep in mind they had one of the easiest schedules for the entire season. Number 4, we got the Philadelphia Eagles. I know a lot of people might not agree with this. They've been looking a little iffy. There's been a lot of question marks of them in the media as of late. But the Eagles, to me, squeezing out that win against the Giants showed that this team has the character to win games when it might not be good. Team might not be going well. They're getting it done. They have an easy schedule to run things out. They have a shot at winning the whole entire NFC, and to me, that's a lot of power. If you can get that first round bye, which they're not out of it, they should win their next 2 games. It's very easy for them. They got Arizona, and then they have the Giants again. So one of those teams that should kind of cruise their way to the playoffs. Have a lot of time to get it right, and I do believe that they will. Number 3, absolutely crazy. Did we think the Lions would be here at the beginning of the season? Absolutely not. Took a while for me to get in there, and sure, they had a little bit of struggles along the way, but I liked the way they clinched this division. They got it done against Minnesota. It's going to be fun. It's your number 3. You're immediately going to be tested, though. They're playing Dallas this upcoming week. Immediately tested. And number 1 and 2, I'm going to put up at the same time because these guys played each other. I did not mean to put that upside down. We saw it on, Monday night, the game of the week. Baltimore takes on San Francisco, and they win 33-19. And that has to be number 1 for Baltimore, even though it was a super ugly game. Brock Purdy throwing 4 picks, the first time he's really looked really human all season, let alone my level of human. But you had to do it. Nothing else really to say about this matchup. It was a one-off. Probably for Brock Purdy, possibly a Super Bowl preview, guys. Baltimore plays Miami. San Francisco does have an easier matchup this week with Washington. They should be able to get it right. And there you guys have it. 1 through 32 across the NFL. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you agree with, what you disagree with. And don't forget, subscribe, like, join the Discord, all that fun stuff. We'll see you for the next video.